Hi everyone, welcome to another interview at Panda's Odyssey. Today I am interviewing Steve Hiscoe, Shihan
Yeah,
of Hiscoe Jiu-Jitsu.
that's right.
Nice. Um, Thank you first for being here,
Yeah, absolutely.
doing this. It's
My
awesome.
pleasure.
I guess if you could uh, give the viewers a bit of a bio of yourself and your martial arts journey you've been on.
Sure. I started martial arts in 1975. I was 7 years old at the time. I think my parents wanted to ensure that I knew how to protect myself as I was growing up. So I started at a school in Ottawa called Can-Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, and they'd been around for quite a while and had a good reputation in the Ottawa area, and that's where my parents brought me. As I was growing up, my dad also started training in jiu-jitsu, and as well as my brother, so it kind of became a little bit of a family affair. In 1983 is when I got promoted to first degree black belt, and what was sort of special about that is my dad got promoted to black belt at the same time. So back in 1983, that was the first time that a father and son had been promoted to black belt at the same time on the same day. Although there were other father and son black belt teams, but never that had been promoted at the same time. So that was pretty special, for us.
Oh yeah.
Kept training, became one of the instructors at the dojo. My dad took over the kids program, so I was an assistant instructor in the kids program. And in 1989, I left Ottawa. I was hired by the RCMP and ended up in Regina. Just tonight, somebody was asking me, if growing up I had wanted to be a police officer, and it never really was something that I had thought of. But these are things that happen in the dojo. I was having a chat with one of the fathers. He was like, "What are you going to do with your life?" So never really thought about it. And he was a sergeant in the RCMP at the time, so went home, thought about it, talked to my parents about it, and applied. So that's how I ended up in Regina, and then I got posted to Abbotsford, British Columbia. So in 1989, and there was no real jiu-jitsu in the area. So I started doing some karate and cross-training with the guys at the Abbotsford Karate Club. And so I was learning karate, I was teaching them jiu-jitsu, and just kind of through the years, more and more people that were non-karate students wanted to start taking classes. So the karate guys kind of started dwindling, and I started building more of a clientele on the civilian side.
Okay.
And so that's how my dojo started in 1992. So I'm coming up on 25 years of having my school in British Columbia, and specifically in the Fraser Valley. So that is kind of how my dojo started. And then since then, just a whole bunch of other little things, maybe significant, is there was not a lot of jiu-jitsu in British Columbia back then. And so being one of the kind of the first people to bring jiu-jitsu to BC at the time, started meeting other people like Kiyoshi Seamark and whatnot, and we just kind of started building a base. And we started Jiu-Jitsu BC, which was a non-profit, non-political society to try and bring other jiu-jitsu schools together.
Very cool.
And that's how I met Sensei Ari Nezan at the same time. And sort of we kind of started creating a base. And then after Jiu-Jitsu BC was kind of done and disbanded, we took over the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Union.
Okay.
So Professor George Sylvain is the founder of Can-Ryu Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And he retired approximately 10 years ago. And when he retired, he left the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Union to my father and I. So Hanchi Head Hiscoe, who's a 9th degree black belt now, and so he's the president of the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Union, and myself I'm the vice president, and so now we run kind of the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Union, and it is an organization to bring instructors together, to try and make some of our jiu-jitsu instructors more professional, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And so learning new material, but also how to be better instructors. So that's kind of a little bit of my jiu-jitsu journey, I guess, in a few words.
That's amazing. That's incredible to hear it all laid out like that. So you've been training since you were a kid.
So I'm 48 now.
Yeah.
So I've been on the mat for close to 41 years.
And
so 40, yeah, somewhere around there.
Wow. And it's all like a Japanese style of jiu-jitsu, like traditional style?
Yeah, so Can-Ryu Jiu-Jitsu is, maybe more of it's not a very traditional, it's not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style, it's a stand-up Jiu-Jitsu style. So we do, the same striking as they would do in karate or taekwondo, kicking, punching, a lot of the same throws as in judo, locks as in aikido and whatnot, but kind of really blended into a self-defense model. So somebody grabs you, how do you get out of it? And a lot of times I'll tell people we do kind of two things, right? We have this side of the line that is just really straight, no nonsense self-defense, right? So blow, throw, blow, hit him, get him on the ground, hit him again, or create distance. And then the other side is more the art of jiu-jitsu. So, more of the, I could say fancy techniques, but, after throw controls and things that would not really work on the street per se, but they're fun to do, right? And you start twisting people around and, that kind of stuff. So
that's cool. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've also recently started dabbling with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Petit peu, a little bit,
yes.
A little bit, yes. And the reason I did that was, was really to try and bring a little bit more tools to my toolbox. I'm not going to turn my dojo into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo. It's one of the things that I take pride in is that I've done all 40 some years of my Jiu-Jitsu training in the same style, under the same umbrella. And so I'm not at the point where I'm going to drop all of that to adopt something new. But you also always have to be progressive, and you always have to be bringing new information into your curriculum. So I've quite enjoyed it. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much, but I do enjoy it. Good exercise, good technique, and of course we're with Keith Owen.
Oh yes.
And so what I've really like about what he's done is the drill concept that he's brought forward. And so what was very progressive with Keith, I think, when he was looking at starting his association, was not targeting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, because there's a ton of those, but where could he have the most impact with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is on non-Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, and show them that how they can grow, and like I said, add more tools to their arsenal, or more weapons to their arsenal, with what he had to offer. And so I've enjoyed that, and been working at it and incorporating it. And again, I'm a super beginner at it. I don't spend a ton of time because I don't have a ton of time. But again, what's good about the way he's developed it is the ease of learning. And I think the other part for some people is the way it's not one technique, but really it's a kata, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kata, right? So for people
chaining them all
together. So for karate people who are used to doing katas, or taekwondo or whatnot, well, this is just a kata done on the ground, and being able to dissect it into different pieces, and then you can teach this or this or this, and then put it all together. So I've really quite enjoyed that piece.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that, because we've talked about this before with other people, and it is like a fresh new look at the old self-defense, the combatives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and kind of remixing it, I guess you'd say, into, showing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people kind of the importance of self-defense, and kind of, it totally does. It bridges the two of traditional Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into, like, the one art that it is, and self-defense and how its importance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how was that though? When you first got in, like, tried out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, having been doing your art for the years you have, and then
you have to be humble. You have to be willing to be a beginner again. And having done martial arts for such a long time, you can't take yourself too seriously at the same time. So the first time I think that I really participated in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class or seminar was in Victoria at Sensei Ari's dojo. And I believe Keith Owen was there, James Foster was there. So it was a good introduction, and I guess to have two instructors of their caliber, it was a very good introduction to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that was the first time, and really just kind of playing around with it a little bit and thinking about it a little bit more, having more conversation with Sensei Ari about it, and decided, okay, I'll give it a try. And so that's kind of the way it went. And taking the black belt off and putting the white belt on. And for some people that is very difficult to do. But I think if you can look past that, because you are learning something completely different, then it makes it, maybe a little bit easier. And to be honest, there's a lot of politics in this game, right? Yes. And I know many people have lived those politics and stuff. And I am not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Not sure that I ever will be, but it's taking the information and then being able to adapt it the way that I feel I can adapt it. But like I said, also is being humble enough to be able to take that black belt off, walk into another school, another system, totally new environment, new technique, and just being able to be a student again. And I think for a lot of black belts, that's refreshing, because we are so used to being on the mat teaching, that we never have the opportunity to be the student again. So I think that's refreshing on one side, is being able to just sit there and learn rather than, have to be the one teaching all the time.
I remember growing up hearing the phrase that once you become a black belt, you're a white belt again. And there are those out there that once they're a black belt, they're a black belt. But when I saw you picking up, a white belt again and trying a new art, especially after training yourself so long and as close as it is with your family, I was like, that's very commendable. That's awesome. Like,
oh, thank you.
It was so cool to see branching out and seeing different arts. And I mean, I've always enjoyed my time with you on the mats, and it's cool to see when you're in a club and you see the openness to learning, right? Yeah. So if you're out there and you're noticing, we're not in a club, actually. We're in a cottage, aren't we?
Yeah, we're in Sicamous, British Columbia. Yeah. And so this weekend I'm hosting our 10th anniversary summer camp for the Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Union. We've been in Sicamous for 10 years. And so yeah, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, and so speaking of different styles and learning, that's basically what we're doing here, right? Is we have how many different styles on the mats today?
So today we had Kiyoshi Seamark, who is Kokudo Jiu-Jitsu, so very traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu style. And then we had Sensei Ari Neizan, who is a Goshin Jiu-Jitsu instructor, but also Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. Sensei Alex Munoz from Invermere, And actually, today's the first time that we've actually met and been on the mat, so it was pretty exciting to have some new blood come into the camp. And he's a different style of Goshin Jiu-Jitsu. And then some other Can-Ryu instructors that are underneath my umbrella. Sensei Dave Woods from Vermilion and Sensei Quincy Jones from Calgary, and myself. I think that's the six. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All very cool guys with amazing techniques to show. I love coming to these camps. I remember hearing about camps like this growing up, but never ever get a chance to come out to one. Last winter was my first time coming out, and there was a bit of judo done for a while. Yep. There was a lot of the guys that are here this year were there as well. It was really cool because you're switching it up every hour or so, and your dad was there, I believe.
Yes.
Doing some pretty cool self-defense techniques, and I was like, this is amazing. Like this is how I've always wanted, to learn, just to have have a whole day of just every hour it's a different style. And
what's unique, I guess, in about this kind of camp or our camp is the instructors that come in. I've known them for a long time. They're very good personal friends, and they are probably the best jiu-jitsu instructors in Western Canada, if not in Canada. And really, there's no ego. When we get onto the mat, right, or even after hours, if students want to walk up and talk to them, and it's all cool, right? So there's no, well, I'm this rank and I'm this rank, and we're all friends. We're all here, to share and to learn, and we all do the same thing, maybe a little bit different, but we all do the same thing. And so these camps are great for that. And like we were just talking a few minutes ago, is these camps don't happen unless the students attend. And the reason these instructors are here is because year after year after year, they bring their A game. And they really are some of the best guys out there. And so the feedback from the instructor, or from the students, sorry, is that, yeah, this is, a place I want to be, and it is a place that I want to come and learn.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun, both on and off the mats. Just the techniques to learn, as well as just being able to talk with one another, like you said, being very approachable. Like the new instructor in his camp coming down today, talked to them all, and like really cool guys, and it's always really refreshing, I guess, to see meet new people and find that there's another club out there that is just like, yay, man, I'm willing to learn as well. I want to learn what you guys have, and share knowledge, right? And it's so great finding something like that. Like today, when he asked to see that technique of Kyoshi C-mark and fall victim to the wrist lock again. If you don't know, look up Kokodo, you understand. So how did it all start? So it's been 10 years now that you've been running these camps.
So and even before we started running these camps, like I said, Kyoshi C-mark and Sensei Ari and myself were part of Jiu-Jitsu BC. So we were used to having events with people getting together and stuff like that. And even prior to that, I can't remember the dates, probably early 90s, I had held a multidiscipline martial arts camp in Abbotsford. And it was the first one that BC had, probably in a long time. If there had been one, there hadn't been one in a long time. And so that had, same thing, judo, karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, the whole gamut. So, it's just a way of getting together with your friends. I guess it's kind of like having a house party, but we're going to do it over a weekend, and we're going to be on the mat, and we're going to be sharing knowledge. The reason we use Sikamoose is because I had a black belt that lived here, so was able to put a lot of stuff together. But I have a lot of students in the Alberta side and a lot of students in the Lower Mainland, and just kind of be halfway. And so it's served us well for the 10 years that we've been, coming up here. So
So it's been every 10 years, and like every summer, sorry, it's been here.
Yeah.
But the winter camps.
So the winter camps started probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so we've been having those, excuse me, closer to Chilliwack at in Sunshine Valley. There's a resort there where we have access to, you know, cabins and the training area and pools and hot tubs, and it's a really nice facility.
It is.
And again, it just kind of keeps everybody together and that camaraderie over the whole weekend. And the idea is the same. It's just, you know, now there's snow on the ground, which adds a little bit of a different dynamic to, you know, to the weekend. So.
Well, sometimes you need that snow after doing a few techniques to cool down after some of these joints.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a few snow angels and break falls in the snowbanks, right?
Yes. So. You've been running, so you've had your own club for
25 years.
25 years. And you started when you were 7, you said?
Yes.
Yes. So you've run the full gamut from being like a student as a kid to an adult and now a club owner. So you must have seen all kinds of people coming and going, trying it out for a bit. And
I've seen everything from, yeah, absolutely. You know, kids. Like, we have some junior black belts that are here this weekend. My son is here, and they've been training for 6, 7, 8 years. We've seen some people that come in, they go, I've seen thousands of students. Yeah. I've promoted probably close to, 50 black belts. How many are still training, right? So life gets in the way. They come, they go. So yeah, you kind of see a little bit of everything. I think the biggest thing is that everybody starts jiu-jitsu for a different reason, right? It could be they're looking to make friends, so they want to try something new. It could be, for the self-defense aspect. They may have had a violent encounter or something happen in their life that they decide, I need to figure out how to deal with these kind of things. Could be somebody who, needs help with, bullying, right, where they've been pushed around and they need some self-confidence in themselves. It could be somebody who, is looking for a different way of exercising. The gym is just not doing it for them anymore. They want to find a more interactive way of being able to, do that. And if they find the right environment, and what's great is, the people that I surround myself with, like here at the camp, create that environment in their schools as well. Is finding that environment where your students want to stay. They become part of the community. They, if they've been there long enough, they become very good friends. They become part of your family, type of thing. And so really that's what we try and promote at our school. And, we have, same as when I grew up and my dad was training, I have multiple father and son teams that, that train and whatnot. And I kind of look and go, you know what? They could be the future of where I was, right? The next of where I was. And really trying to develop that, for them and create that, that family bond with them, right? Yeah. Like I spent pretty much every Friday night and Saturday with my dad at the dojo, probably from the time I was 10 to I left home when I was 20. That's cool. And so Saturdays was our day to spend time together. So we'd be at the dojo early in the morning. We'd go for lunch after we were done teaching and stuff. And one day he told me this story. He said, I phoned him. I used to, phone home a lot more. And for some reason I phoned and it was Saturday morning or Saturday around lunchtime. And he was sitting with a reporter doing kind of an interview like we're doing. Cool. And just happened to be talking about kind of the same, family-oriented type of stuff and everything. And so he went, oh, excuse me, I just pick up the phone. And he says to me, he says, oh, I can't talk right now. I'm just doing an interview. So hangs up the phone. And he says to the interviewer, he says, that was my son. It's Saturday today, and like 1 o'clock, which would be typically when we would be going for lunch after teaching, right? Yeah. So just kind of that, quirky little coincidence at the same time, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah, and now I try and do the same thing with my son Matthew. He, like I said, he's been training for 6 years. He's a junior black belt, but he's awesome with kids. I have a 4-year-old who is training now as well in our 3 and 4-year-old class. So, you know, Saturdays is a family affair for us at the dojo. My wife Tracy, who's a preschool teacher and a nanny, she has no martial arts experience, but has a lot of early childhood experience. So she gets on the mat and helps corral kids around and do this and do that. And so it's become really, you know, I'm there, my wife is there, my middle son is there, my youngest son is there.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That's cool. Yeah. That's very cool. It's funny, yeah, you mentioned the kids and the junior black belts and today on the mat. So we'll say this is a side thing. The kids I saw on the mat today were amazing. Was not, you know, what you would see this normal kids on the streets that aren't doing jiu-jitsu, you know, like they were very like attentive and very skilled. It was really impressive.
And yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, they were on the mat for 6 hours, right? With a half-hour break at lunchtime. So, you know, for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old to be on the mat for 6 hours in a day. And I mean, we did some pretty high-level stuff today and some crashing and banging. And so, yeah, I was really impressed with that. They were able to hold out for the day. So
that's cool. So the moral of the story is put your kid in martial arts. You will save a whole lot of stress.
You know, if you get them involved early, you know where they are, right? Especially if they become involved in the dojo and they start helping teaching classes, because there are so many other benefits than just the self-defense aspect, you know, the self-discipline and the, you know, being able, the public speaking and the confidence that they gain, you know, from being in the dojo and doing those things and surrounding themselves with, you know, with good people. So.
And it's funny. It's like I like you brought in those traits that they learn, because I was actually going to ask you about being that you've been running a club for 25 years. Like, what is it you for the different things you look to teach from the kids to adults, and what kind of?
Well, for the kids, it really is, you know, the confidence, the discipline, and we have those mat chats, you know, at the end of the class with the kids, and you know, so yeah, so we talk about discipline, self-discipline, you know, confidence, and even if it's just getting up and doing the warm-up in front of their peers. For some people, public speaking is very difficult. So if they can start at a young age, even if it's doing like 5 minutes of, you know, exercise and telling the other kids what to do and that kind of stuff, you know, really helps. And talking to parents who have been with us for 2 and 3 years are seeing those changes in their kids, either through schoolwork, through dealing with other kids, dealing with, you know, other adults, and so they really see a big difference in you know, in their kids after they've been training for a little while.
Big time. As a kid that was a teenager in high school doing jiu-jitsu, yeah, big difference from when I started and when I, you know, went my different ways going to college. Yeah, I'm a big believer of putting kids in martial arts at a young age. Not necessarily over team sports, but, you know, at least as well as team sports. Because to me, anyways, I always see martial arts as like, it's got the greatest dynamic of being both like the closest team sport as it can be and the best like single sport, because really you're together training to be better as one team, but at the same time you're also training yourself to be better than you were, right? So yeah. So your style, you focus is mostly self-defense.
Yes.
Correct. So being in the career you are, and having the experience you have, what do you see as the biggest, like most important aspect to self-defense that you like to convey to the...
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is awareness. Is if you're not aware of what's going on around you, I guess you may have to defend yourself quite a bit, right? So, you know, living with blinders on, you know, those kind of things is, I think is the biggest thing, is you need to be knowing what is going on around you. And the other part would be, if you haven't been paying attention and then something happens, is being aggressive, right? Is somebody's grabbing you for a reason. They want to hurt you. They want to do something to you. When I'm teaching my ladies self-defense classes, I talk about my little pink hand grenade, right? So, you know, their little pink hand grenade. Somebody attacking you, grabbing you is the pin being pulled. So what happens to a grenade when the pin is pulled? It explodes. So they need to be aggressive. They need to fight back. They need to channel their fear from being, you know, defensive to being offensive. There's so many techniques out there, right? There's so many things out there. So when you're talking purely the self-defense aspect, is trying not to create what we call a brain stall, which means that you have so many techniques in your brain that when something happens, well, what am I going to do? Should I do this one, this one, this one, or this one? Is you want to just be able to react. And so, you know, having a handful of things, concepts to work from, rather than all sorts of things to work from, especially on, like I said, on the self-defense side. And so I think those are some of the important things that, you know, you want your students to be. So we were talking about our juniors that were there, and I have 2-3 junior females that are there. My anticipation, or my expectation of them as they gain to be, you know, older and whatnot, is that really, as females and black belts and instructors, that they can really demonstrate the skill that they've learned without a lot of hesitation, with aggression, with control, and being able to, you know, really have somebody look at them and go, wow, that was pretty impressive, right? Rather than, yeah, just kind of really being able to, you know, to handle themselves.
Yeah, and it's funny. I look back at today and I see that, yeah, like they weren't timid when they were there on the mats and training with the guys, like doing different techniques, and that's
yeah. I saw a couple of them probably working with the biggest guys in the class, and none of these girls are bigger, are big girls, and none of them are over 14 years old.
Yeah, and they weren't fazed by it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, aggression. Now, when you're saying that, you're that's what you mean, and it is the courage, right? The standing your ground, and not necessarily being aggressive, as in just swinging and mad kind of. Yeah,
no, being like controlled and technique, but not being afraid to get in there and protect themselves, right, or to defend themselves, right? So, like I said, when the pin on that grenade is pulled, you need to explode and fight back. So that's my, you know, my expectation of them.
Yeah, I was reminded when you mentioned about awareness. You know, if you're not aware, then you're going to be defending yourself a lot. I don't know where I heard this, but I remember hearing about someone talking and saying, you know, I need to learn how to fight, because every time I'm walking home and down this road, I keep getting into a fight and I keep getting beat up. And it's like, well,
take a different road home.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you know, knowing your environment, knowing where you are, you know, should I be here? Should I not be here? Listening to your sixth sense, right? If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. So, you know, even as an 8th degree black belt, even as a police officer, all that kind of stuff, if something doesn't feel right to me, then I'll just take a different route, right? Why put yourself in a position where something, you know, could happen?
And yeah, same here. As a traveler, going around, seeing different places, and being, you don't know what areas of town are bad,
Right.
but you can get a pretty good feel for it. Whenever you're, not heading in the phone or whatever, right? Or, looking around and being, what? I don't know if this is a nice area. I think maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll figure out a different route.
Right.
Yes, maybe it's cheaper to walk, but it might be safer to take the bus, or
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know we're having the evening get together from this camp, but thank you for doing this. It's been
Absolutely,
a great interview.
my pleasure. Absolutely, and thanks for being here this weekend.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. So that's this interview. I'm going to try and get links up of everyone that was mentioned in this interview from this camp. You should check them all out. They're all amazing. If you're in the area, definitely drop by them. I guarantee you'll learn something awesome from them. And until next time, I guess I'll see you on the mats or at the jiu-jitsu camps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so
Well,
much.
you're welcome.